Picture this: Tokyo in flames, American B-29s darkening the skies nightly, civilians fleeing to bomb shelters, and yet, in a requisition studio, a team of female animators meticulously hand draws frame after frame of adorable anthropomorphic animals preparing for war. As Japan teetered on the brink of collapse, the Imperial Navy allocated its dwindling resources not to aircraft or ammunition, but to a 74-minute animated feature designed to enchant children into embracing death for the Emperor. This paradox, beauty weaponized, innocence militarized, reveals the profound truth of this era. Cinema had become a battlefield for hearts and minds. Both artists and governments understood that the emotive power of film was a weapon capable of shaping public opinion and fueling a war machine. In this series, we're exploring 4 crucial films forged in the fires of that war. We'll consider the classic Casablanca, Akira Kurosawa's docudrama celebrating the silent sacrifice of factory workers, The Most Beautiful, Frank Capra's government documentary, Why We Fight, and today's subject, the first feature-length animated film in Japan, Mitsuyo Osio's Momotaro Sacred Sailors. Originating from opposing sides of this conflict, these films, a Hollywood melodrama, a children's fantasy, a workplace drama, and a government documentary, each offer a lens through which to view the craft of persuasion in a time of total war. We typically think of children's animation as lighthearted fun. But Momotaro Sacred Sailors was a propaganda film commissioned by the Imperial Navy, aimed at indoctrinating Japanese children, very few who ever saw it, because so many had been evacuated to the countryside in the final months of the war when the movie was released. Its post-war fate was even more dramatic. As a propaganda piece that portrayed the Allies literally as horned demons, it was ordered destroyed by the Allied occupation forces. For decades, Momotaro Sacred Sailors was considered lost. Japan's first animated feature, only a phantom of film history, until a single negative was miraculously discovered in a dusty warehouse in 1983. While the film's initial impact was negligible, its long-term influence proved profound in one specific world-changing way. Among the handful of children who actually saw the film was a young Osamu Tezuka, the future god of manga, who would later recall being moved to tears by the film's hints and dreams and hopes hidden under the appearance of war propaganda. The film that was meant to be forgotten had planted a seed in the mind of the most influential cartoonist of the 20th century. To understand the film's power, we must first understand the legend. In Japan, Momotaro, the Peach Boy, is not merely a story. It is a cultural touchstone, a foundational narrative taught from earliest childhood. Scholars trace the story's origin to a confluence of oral traditions from as early as the 14th century. The tale is simple and potent. A miraculous birth from a giant peach discovered by a childless elderly couple. A hero's journey to a demon-infested island. the recruitment of loyal animal companions through acts of generosity, and ultimate triumph over monstrous evil. But folktales are living stories, constantly reshaped by the societies that tell them. Momotaro's modern form was cemented in 1887 when the Meiji government strategically inserted a standardized version into the nation's first elementary school textbook. It was a calculated act to cultivate a unified national identity. As Japan's imperial ambitions grew, the Momotaro story was further co-opted. The tale's structure, a righteous hero vanquishing malevolent outsiders, was perfectly suited for propaganda. The demonic Oni became a terrifyingly flexible metaphor, a stand-in for any enemy of the Japanese Empire. First Tsarist Russia, then Qing emperors of China, and, inevitably, the Allies in World War II. This indoctrination was even set to music. The 1911 National Songbook for Elementary Education introduced the Momotaro song, designed to replace regional folk tunes with a state-approved anthem of patriotism. This version became so ubiquitous that my own wife, born decades later in Taiwan, learned the song in Japanese from her grandmother, relic of the island's time as a Japanese colony. Given this history, it becomes less surprising, though no less unsettling, that the Imperial Navy would dedicate scarce resources at the end of the war on a project as technically ambitious as Japan's first animated feature. So, how does the film transform this beloved folktale into a weapon of war? First, it promotes the ideology of the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. The film's narrative arc follows Momotaro and his naval paratroopers as they liberate a southern island. The local animal populations, cheetahs, rhinos, tropical birds, are portrayed as simple primitives who joyfully welcome their Japanese liberators. In a scene that is both surreal and chilling, the Japanese soldiers teach these native animals the Japanese alphabet via a catchy song, a clear metaphor for cultural assimilation of other Asian peoples under Japanese leadership. Second, the depiction of Japan's adversaries is stark and dehumanizing. Westerners are grotesque, horned devils, portrayed as cowardly, undisciplined, and morally corrupt. The film even includes caricatures of Popeye and Bluto among the routed enemy forces. The film's final haunting shot shows Japanese children playing at parachuting into a chalk outline of the continental United States, explicitly identifying the target for the next generation. This is, perhaps, the film's most disquieting feature for a modern audience, its use of cute or kawaii aesthetic in the service of war aims. The depiction of adorable anthropomorphic animals engaged in military drills, combat, and the civilizing of native populations softens the harsh realities of war. It is designed to teach imperial domination to children. This is all the more horrific if you understand the Japanese government's planned endgame, which involved assigning soldiers to schools to train children to fight. This training was brutal. One survivor later recalled how, at age 11, he and his schoolmates were taught how to roll under an American tank, clutching an explosive to blow up themselves with the tank. While the home islands were ultimately not invaded, during the battle for Okinawa, over 2,000 conscripted boys, some as young as 14, were killed in action. Sacred Sailors is a profoundly disturbing film. Its deployment of charming animation and beloved folklore to glorify war and promote a violent imperial ideology to children is a stark reminder of propaganda's insidious power. But this is precisely why the film remains so important. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths, not just about one nation's wartime past, but about the capacity for art to be co-opted and the power of media to shape our view of the world. But it is also hopeful to note that the darkness of ultranationalism can be overcome, and that folktales and storytelling are resilient. In Embracing Defeat, the historian John Dower notes that the Oni is a liminal figure who can be a helpful outsider, not just a demon, and that this adaptable framing helped the bitter rivals move towards cooperation and engagement after the war. A child can see through a propaganda film towards the humanistic possibilities of their later career as the god of manga. And generations of children can learn about the values of cooperation, courage, sharing from the stories of Momotaro reclaimed from imperial ambition. Next time, we cross the Pacific to examine how America wielded its own cinematic arsenal in the Frank Capra-produced documentary Why We Fight, The Battle for China, a film from the director best known today, perhaps, for the holiday classic It's a Wonderful Life. I'm excited to hear your thoughts in the comments. A like and a subscribe helps ensure you won't miss our next installment and helps these film discussions find a wider audience. Thank you for watching.